A lot went wrong for the Buffalo Bills in London. We're breaking it down today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, folks, not a victory Monday here. The Buffalo Bills fell to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London in Week 5, 25-20, and dropped to 3-2 on the season. I think four critical factors played into this loss. They're all very, very important. Defensive injuries, offense, officiating, and overall management of the circumstances entering this game. Now, let's start with the defensive injuries. And folks, I am not making any excuses for the Buffalo Bills. Let me tell you, one thing that I know in the NFL is that nobody cares about your problems. Nobody cares. You don't get any extra points or lose points based on health. Nobody cares about your injuries. Nobody cares about your problems. So I'm not making excuses. Trust me. But the compounding defensive injuries are alarming for this football team right now, and it plays into the overall narrative for this game. Before the game, you were without starting defensive end Greg Rousseau, starting cornerback Christian Benford, rotational defensive end Shaq Lawson, and not to mention CB1 Trey White, who is out for the season, and this is your first game without him. Now, almost immediately in this Jaguars game, you have two massive injuries to your defense in Matt Milano and Daquan Jones. Both appear to be significant injuries. Sean McDermott said neither situation looked good. We know that it's a leg injury for Milano. Adam Schefter has already shared that it's a fractured leg, and there's also fear of a torn ACL that's going to cost Matt Milano the season. We know it's a pectoral injury for Daquan Jones. Watching the film, you could see him trying to make that tackle. He did make the tackle. Big third down stop. Reaching out, pulling the ball carrier down, and that extended his pec, and I don't know, it's probably torn. I'm expecting the worst in both situations. And so almost immediately you're down 5 defensive starters, and that's obviously tough, which makes it that much more important for your offense to perform. Because you know what? Not a single one of those guys on offense was injured. And simply put, the offense was just not good enough. They needed to meet this moment and help carry the team under these circumstances. And instead, they mostly did the opposite. And somehow the defense, despite all of that, kept you in the game. No, the defense didn't do enough. There's no question. But what could you expect from them given the circumstances? The score of the game was 11-7 Jaguars until midway through the fourth quarter. You're completely healthy on offense, and you couldn't do much of anything for the first 55 minutes of this game. The Bills' drives, the Bills' offensive drives, you had the ball 11 times. Punt, 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 punt. 4 punts in a row to start the game. Touchdown. Well, that was fun. Cool touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs. Love that. You start the second half, punt, interception. And then congratulations on the consecutive touchdown drives to make it interesting at the end. And then, of course, fumble the ball in the last series there. Stephon Diggs trying to do the hook and lateral. You punted on 6 of your first 7 drives. Folks, that is disgusting. That's gross. You needed so much more from those guys on offense. So much more. Now, we'll study the tape. We'll talk about what went wrong, but in watching the game, you can see some of those issues. Drops. How about the first series of the game? James Cook, decent run on first down. A little short pass to Stephon Diggs, and if he lunges the other way, it's probably a first down. You're now in 3rd and short. You throw the ball to James Cook, it goes right through his hands. You punt the ball. How about that Gabe Davis drop on 2nd and 10? Took points off the board for sure. Dalton Kincaid couldn't get one more yard on that. Was it the second series? Diggs can't win one-on-one down the field on the Josh Allen interception against a 5'9", 187-pound corner. And look, I know Diggs was great otherwise. But I'm talking about missed opportunities here. Where things went wrong offensively. You can live with the arm punt from Josh Allen, but Steph, it's a 5'9", 187-pound cornerback that outmuscled you for the football. You have 0 running game in this football game. 0. Josh Allen leads your team in rushing with 14 yards. Not good enough. James Cook, 5 carries, -4 yards. Damian Harris, 3 for 13. Latavius Murray, 2 for 6. Your running backs have 10 carries for 15 yards. Not good enough. What went wrong offensively? Well, miscues in the passing game. Can't run the ball. Penalties were a problem. Holding on Dion Dawkins, 2 holding calls on Osiris Torrence. You've got 7 points through the first 55 minutes of the game. Simply not good enough, especially under these circumstances. Your defense was on the field for over 38 minutes of a 60-minute football game. The Jaguars ran 82 plays. A normal amount of plays for an NFL offense is 60, 65 plays. They ran 82. You ran 54. You're out there for 22 minutes offensively. You have a practice squad defensive tackle rushing off the edge in Kendall Vickers. AJ Epenesa needs oxygen because he has to play so many snaps. Leonard Floyd is battling through an ankle injury. Von Miller's on a pitch count. You're down 5 starters on defense, and your offense can't get anything going against an average Jaguars defense. Now, we're going to get to penalties. We're going to get to the management of the overall situation, but the defensive injuries into a lackluster showing offensively is where I wanted to start. Those guys on offense were healthy. They had to be way better than they were on Sunday morning against the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, folks, let me tell you about FanDuel here. Snap into action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's simply no better time to get in on the action. The app, super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props. I love the player props. Over-unders, and more. I actually went 5 for 5 on my FanDuel prop bets going into this game, Bills-Jaguars. So if there's a silver lining for me, at least I did something well there. Check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So we talked about the defensive injuries, and we'll get into that a little bit more. We talked about how the offense wasn't good enough. Now let's get into the management of the overall situation for the Buffalo Bills in this game. I felt like I watched a Buffalo Bills team that was sleepwalking. And I know Sean McDermott put a lot of thought into planning for this situation, and criticizing that is all the benefit of hindsight, which is always 20/20 vision. But now that we've seen the result, it's fair to say that the plan was bad. We talked leading up to the game about the dynamics of the Jaguars playing back-to-back weeks in London and essentially them just sitting there waiting on the Bills. And I found it possible to optimistically talk myself into potentially it being a good thing for the Bills because the Jags were there for a long time and probably wanted to get home. Well, that turned out to be wishful thinking because the Bills were a tired football team. and listening to the press conferences all week, the Bills' plan was this. This was the Bills' plan for a Jaguars team that was there for the week before, and of course, during that same week. This is what their plan was. Bank sleep throughout the week, so prior to leaving for their flight, bank sleep, go to bed as early as possible and bank sleep. Then to fly in after practice on Thursday, arrive in London early Friday morning, to stay up, right, not sleep, stay up until it gets dark on Friday, same thing on Saturday, and then hope to be normal or somewhat normal for the game on Sunday. Folks, it was a big miscalculation, a big miscalculation. You can't control that the NFL allowed the Jaguars to play back-to-back weeks in London. You can't. But that was a team that was obviously adjusted to the time change. The Jaguars were clearly a team that was adjusted to all of those dynamics. And essentially you, the Bills, you waited as long as possible to put yourself in a position so that you can adjust. Getting there Friday morning. The result? A tired football team that got injured and a tired football team that commits penalties. When you're tired, you're not going to be true to your fundamentals and technique. So here you go, 11 penalties for 109 yards. 109 yards in penalties, 11 penalties. You gave Jacksonville 4 first downs from penalties on defense. And I know that there were players talking about the turf. You heard an unnamed Bills player say they played on concrete. That's unfortunate. The refs made questionable calls. That's unfortunate for sure. But more than any of that, this was a tired football team. You heard Sean McDermott say it after the game. We couldn't match their energy. You heard Stephon Diggs talking about it, not being able to match their energy. It would appear that a lot of that had to do with Sean McDermott's overall plan for getting the team over there. So yes, I'm calling that entire process into question. Now, the NFL can't put a team in a disadvantageous situation like this. They can't do it. The Bills lose a home game, an actual home game, and the other team gets to stay out there for an extra week to get ready. That's garbage. And Tottenham Hotspur Stadium normally has a grass surface, but they put in the artificial surface for the NFL. That's garbage. So there's certainly some things that you couldn't control in this game. But what did you do to help yourself in those situations? Well, you get there as late as possible. You're a tired football team. You're sleepwalking. You're committing penalties. Guys are getting injured. The surface sucks. The refs are calling everything. And it was just a sloppy football game that for so long it felt like it had no flow whatsoever. So we've talked about the defensive injuries. We've talked about the offensive struggles, the officiating and the mismanagement of the circumstances, but there's other things to get into. How about Kaiir Elam in this game? You've been wondering why he's inactive. There you go. Your pass rushers are depleted, right? No Greg Rousseau. Von Miller's on a pitch count. They use those pitches pretty early in the game. Leonard Floyd's playing through an ankle. A.J. Epenesa's gas. You don't have Shaq Lawson. You got a practice squad defensive tackle rushing the passer off the edge. And so you got this first-round pick that can play man coverage. So Sean McDermott says, okay, you can play man coverage. We're going to put you in man coverage. And I got to blitz because I got to do something here. We can't get home without the blitz. I got to send the blitz. Thank God you could play man coverage, Kaiir Elam. Boy, oh boy, did he get cooked all day long by Calvin Ridley. Is Calvin Ridley a good player? Yeah, but that's the NFL. You got to play a guy just like Calvin Ridley every single week. Last week, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The week before that, Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. That's the NFL. Eventually, Kaiir Elam gets benched in the game for Jamarcus Ingram, a practice squad corner. Why is Kaiir Elam inactive every week? There's your answer. And now the Bills are in this spot where Hopefully Christian Benford, your number one cornerback, Christian Benford, can get back soon. And you have Dane Jackson, and then what? Are you going to put Kaiir Elam back out there? Are you one snap away from Jamarcus Ingram starting on the outside? Does Cam Lewis become part of this conversation? It's messy. It's messy at corner for the Bills right now. But at least we have some understanding as to why Kaiir Elam's not playing. The guy's not ready to help this football team. Got taken to school play after play after play by Calvin Ridley. At linebacker, it looks like Dorian Williams came in initially for Matt Milano. Then they worked in Tyrel Dodson. I think they were just trying to see some combinations. I'll be interested in studying the tape and seeing how Dorian Williams looked in his first action. I know that he had a nice pass breakup, had another good open field tackle. He missed an open field tackle. We'll see what the tape says. But obviously there's a lot to sort out for the Bills after this game. A lot to sort out. Obviously the guys that are already injured, but I mean, the severity of Daquan Jones, I fear it's a torn pec. That's going to cost him the season. Seems like Matt Milano's done for the season. Trey White's already done for the season. Christian Benford and Dane Jackson are presumably your starting cornerback tandem. Now, hopefully everything's good with Christian Benford, who missed this game. I understand why he missed the game. Like, if he was close, this is a screen team in Jacksonville. They run off tackle. They're going to force your corners to tackle. If the guy's got a shoulder injury and he can't tackle, you can't play him. But here's the reality with Christian Benford. I like Christian Benford. His rookie season, he had 2 different injuries that cost him time, and he's already missed a game this year. So is he dependable? Can he be available for this football team? Because they can't afford anyone else on defense to get hurt. It's already going to be tough enough path forward without Trey White and Matt Milano and probably Daquan Jones. What's the status of Greg Rousseau? I feel like this is going to be a multi-week deal here with his foot. Now, hopefully Von Miller can ramp up, make more of an impact. Hopefully AJ Epenesa can maintain this level of play. Leonard Floyd can somehow get his ankle right. You get Shaq Lawson back. Maybe you can feel okay about defensive end, and eventually Greg Rousseau will be back. Now, what about defensive tackle? Can Poona Ford step up? I'm optimistic there. I like the player that Poona Ford has been throughout his career, but for some reason he can't get a jersey on Sunday over Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips, who quite honestly haven't done a thing all year. So someone's got to step up there at defensive tackle, because you had Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver both playing at a high level, and then those other guys aren't helping you at all. Well, that's going to change. Oh, by the way, Eli Ankou, who you loved having on the practice squad, got signed to the Falcons this past week, so you lost him. Roster moves are coming for this football team. We could see 3 players put on IR this week, which means 3 new roster spots, which also likely means some adjustments to the practice squad after you just put Trey White on injured reserve. Bottom line is, it's a tough day. Tough day for the Bills. And the injuries, they hurt a whole lot more than the loss. A whole lot more. But how do you respond? Next up is the Giants at home. Then you go to New England. Short week at home against Tampa Bay. At Cincinnati, home against Denver, home against the Jets, at Philly before the bye. Giants at home next, at New England, short week at home against Tampa, at Cincinnati, home against Denver, home against the Jets, at Philly before the bye. Can you win 6 of those 7? That's what I want. I want 6 of those 7. If you go 6-1 through that stretch, you're what? 9-3. If I'm any good at math, I'm not. You're 3-2. 6 + 3 is 9. 2 + 1 is 3. You're 9-3. Can you be 9-3 going into the bye? That's what I'm hoping for. Again, the injuries hurt a whole lot more than the loss, because this is a pretty manageable stretch coming up. But you got to go out there and do it. Nothing is guaranteed in the NFL. You're going to be favored in all those games. Maybe not at Philly. But this is a stretch where it should be manageable for the Bills. It should be. All right, we talked about a lot of bad stuff. There were some bright spots to dig into. We're going to do that here in just a moment. But first, these days, every new potential hire for your small business can feel like a high-stakes wager. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It is so easy to create a free job post over at LinkedIn Jobs. Then once you do, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And then simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Bills Mafia, let's get personal for a minute. Has anyone ever been caught skinny dipping? You know what I mean. When you dip your tortilla chip just barely enough to get a dab of salsa on it, it's okay. We've all been there. And sometimes it's not your fault. Most tortilla chips can't even handle a chunky dip without breaking right in half. But those days are over. It's time to say goodbye to skinny dipping and hello to chunky dunking, because Zach's Mighty tortilla chips are literally made to dip. They're strong and sturdy enough to handle the heftiest dips of guac, all 7 layers of a dip, and every last chunk in that salsa. So say goodbye to skinny dipping and hello to chunky dunking with Zach's Mighty tortilla chips, available at Wegmans in the chip aisle. Zach's Mighty tortilla chips, equipped to dip. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's talk about some bright spots here for the Buffalo Bills from this football game. And before we do it, it's a good reminder of the dynamics of the NFL. It is a week-to-week league. The Bills are coming out of a stretch where they won 3 in a row. You put week 1 behind you. You felt real good about this football team. You beat 3 teams in a row by 4 touchdowns or more. Every single one of them. And now you go to London and you feel like everything's been flipped upside down, right? That's the NFL. That's why it's never appropriate to get too high or too low. You got to take it in stride. Because the way we felt before kickoff this morning compared to the way we feel after kickoff this afternoon, real different. Real different. So what are the bright spots? Well, the touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs was super fun. I mean, that was a seed from Josh Allen. I can't believe he threw it. A lot like that touchdown against the Packers last year, their touchdown pass. I enjoyed that a lot. AJ Epenesa, I mean, what a game. I mean, that guy was everywhere. 2 sacks, tackle for loss, 3 pass breakups, 2 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. I mean, the guy stuffed the stat sheet. I mean, how good is he getting at those, just batting down those passes, man? Guy's having a great year. He had a great year last year. I mean, some people wanted to bury this guy after 2 seasons. He's really turned it on. Starting to wonder, right? Can you bring him back? What's it going to cost if he continues playing at this level? I mean, does this get really crazy? Good for him. How about Ed Oliver? You can put the 2 penalties aside. You can appreciate that he had 9 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, 3 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. Leonard Floyd with a couple of sacks. I mean, defensively, somehow you get 5 sacks and you force 2 fumbles. I mean, those 2 fumbles were huge. I mean, they kind of kept you in the game. Jacksonville's on the door of scoring. I mean, if they get field goals in those situations, they're in business. You took points off the board. Big plays on defense. About Deontay Hardy, 2 catches for 62 yards, 43 yards on 1 catch, 19 on the other. It's nice to see him do some stuff down the field. I mean, Stephon Diggs had 8 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. Gabe Davis, if you can put the drop aside, 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Did a couple of good things here, but it all feels so empty, right? All feels so empty in the grand scheme of the way you feel coming out of this game. How about my predictions? Man, oh man, talk about bad. My first prediction was that 2 defensive tackle sacks. We got 1 from Ed Oliver. I'd be curious if there was another one to be had once Daquan Jones would have finished the game, but Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips continue to just be really quiet players for this team. And, you know, Ed Oliver made a ton of plays, but only 1 sack. So I didn't get that right. I predicted someone on offense would score their first touchdown. That didn't happen. You got 3 touchdowns in this game, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 to Gabe Davis, 1 to Stephon Diggs, and then Josh Allen ran in the other one. So those are your 3 touchdowns. Predicted 20 first downs for the Bills and under 20 first downs for Jacksonville. That didn't happen. Jacksonville got 29 first downs. The Bills got 18. Kind of thought that would be flipped around. I said we get a 50-plus yard field goal in this game. Didn't happen. We only had one field goal made. Only one field goal attempted. Brandon McManus made from 44 yards out. And I predicted the Bills would win. And that didn't happen. So we go 0 for 5. I don't think I've ever gone 0 for 5. That's bad. But kind of a weird game, right? Weird circumstances. The injuries early. Didn't think the Bills' offense would sleepwalk through the first 55 minutes of it, but here we are. I'll be here all week for you. I know that following a loss, it's not everyone's favorite thing to do to talk more about it, but I really do feel like our best conversations come in these moments. So if you're here listening still, thank you. And we're going to have good conversations this week about this football team and the path forward and the new challenges, right? It's the NFL. It's a week-to-week league. Week-to-week league. If there ever was an example, it's beating the Dolphins by 4 touchdowns into this loss and the injuries that come with it and what the path is moving forward. So we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to do the All-22 review. That'll come out later in the day on Monday. And then, of course, herd mentality. Then we'll shift our attention to the Bills' next game against the New York Giants. I am going to be on Bleacher Report on Monday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm going to give you my winners and losers from the game. So hopefully you'll be able to join me for that. And hopefully you'll be around all week as we continue this conversation. The Bills are at 3-2. The Dolphins beat the Giants to get to 4-1. So they're back on top of the AFC East. The Patriots got dismantled by the Saints. Mac Jones was benched in the game. And those are the Bills' next 2 opponents, the Giants and then the Patriots, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double-check my notes here. I know I just went over this. No, yeah, it's Giants and Patriots. Those are your next 2. And then a short week at home against Tampa Bay, and then Cincinnati, who knows what that football team's going to be like, right? You figure at some point they're going to wake up, and I said that about Jacksonville. And in some ways, I think Jacksonville woke up. In some ways, I think they were in an advantageous situation that they took advantage of. Credit to them. But a lot of the situational stuff that I talked about with Jacksonville, you saw it. You saw the goofiness down in the red zone, not converting, fumbles. But, you know, they went out and won a football game. So give them credit. An important win for them, right? These are 2 teams that, let's be honest, I mean, could matter a lot, whether it's both teams winning the division. You know, if the Jaguars win the South and the Bills win the East, Jaguars got the head-to-head tiebreaker. And if the Bills don't win the East and they're fighting for a wild card spot, Jacksonville could be right in that too, especially with what you're seeing out of Houston and Indy. And, you know, that division looks like it might be a little bit more competitive than we thought. So bad loss for the Bills all around. Makes everything a little bit tougher, especially when you consider the injuries. But that is going to do it for us here today. Don't want to get you down, folks. Life is good. It's unfortunate that the Bills lost the game, but keep it in perspective. And hopefully you can still have a good week. And we'll have a lot of good conversations here for you on Locked On Bills. So make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.